I believe in all our areas, Kerry. Southwest Florida, the greater Fort Myers area, that was really hot. It was the fastest growing area in the country last year ranked. But I think, part of me really likes Jacksonville.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, you hear about real estate busts taking place around the country, but there are several places where that just is not the case. One of which is the great state of Florida, my adopted home, and the adopted home of the person you're about to hear from, Jim Sheils. I've known you for years now. You've literally been at this nonstop. I think I've known you 5 or 6 years. You've been building homes in the Jacksonville market and selling them to investors through thick and thin. How is business?
Business is good. We're actually now in 12 different markets in Florida. So we've expanded the new construction model. I used to do bulk foreclosures, buy foreclosures, fix them up, rent them, or work with investors on them. And we just found the new construction to be a better way. And it was also more scalable and more desirable for everyone, for our own building needs, for investors, for the tenants. So we've been able to scale into about 12 different markets now.
All right. So you have a really good perspective, a unique perspective on the Florida market. Like I said in the intro, there's weak real estate markets around the country, but Florida is not one of them. What is your take? What's your perspective on what the market's doing and where you think it's heading?
Right now in Florida, supply and demand is a big factor of all real estate, and we're still behind on building for the people that have been coming here through the pandemic. So we're still seeing nothing like the growth that you saw of 20, 30% in values and rental growth in like 2021, but still ticking up a few percent already this year. And we're very conservative at our growth patterns. So we're still seeing a very small uptick in both rents and growth. Our year over on rental contracts, if you do a new rental contract, we're having about 9.6% increase on our rents. And this year so far, the market's averaged about 3% growth midway through the year.
So Florida is a fascinating state. Do you know how many people there were in Florida in 1950?
Probably a lot less than now.
2.7 million. You know what the population was in 1960? 4.9 million.
Yeah, so
now it's 22.5 million. It's probably higher than that. I don't think census really has the key metrics programmed in. So in a market where you have rising population, even in the face of rising interest rates, prices still go up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So a house that you sold to an investor a year ago, what was the average price you were selling for a year ago?
A year ago, wouldn't be a ton different from now, probably about 8% less a year ago. Now 2-3 years ago, 30% less. So
right.
That's a really nice climb for our investors. They've been very happy.
Yeah. So 8% effectively, I realize it's a paper gain from 1 year to the next. It's not a real gain till you go to sell, but that's got to give you some incentive, some security when you're going into a market where you hear the media just saying, can't get mortgages, mortgage rates are so high, all of this.
Yeah. Well, we've tried to create our own market for our investors. So one of the major things that does influence, no matter what anyone says, is interest rates, because it affects your payment, whether you're an investor trying to get cash flow or a homeowner wanting to live there. So what we've done for our new construction is we've created an in-house financing program, locking people in at 4.75%, which obviously helps with immediate cash flow when others are out there offering about 7% for investor loans. we're trying to get them off on the right track. You have to have a certain size company and balance sheet to be able to do this with banks, but we've been lucky to cross that threshold, and now we're able to offer these low rates to our buyers.
So what's your typical house that you sell to investors?
Well, typical is a tough word, Kerry, because, our recipe is all residential right now, single family duplexes and quads. And that's our main focus. And those range from about 240 to about 800.
Mm-hmm. And so what kind of rent can you get on these homes?
We're looking at anywhere from, 1,500 to 2,200, or for smaller units, 1,200 to 1,600.
So I would classify that almost as affordable housing on the small.
Oh yeah, we're definitely in the workforce affordable housing, price below the median. And a lot. None of the big builders out there will build duplexes or quads. They have no interest.
No.
So I think it's less than 8% since 2009 of new construction has been for units under 1,200 square feet or under. So when we step in with one of our duplex models or quads, it's an affordable housing and not a large apartment that people are really attracted to. And that's been to our advantage, because a lot of people just don't want to build them. We don't mind building them, and the returns are great for our investors.
I can see that. And I know just in my area, Palm Beach County, very little, multi-unit housing is like, basically townhomes that are going for like, $1 million. That's what they're going for here. You see the high-end builders are involved in that space. But in terms of middle-class housing, there just isn't any really being constructed here in Florida, unless they're in areas that are transitioning,
Yeah. Miami, like for that southeast side of Florida, it's just too expensive. Beautiful. It's a great place to live, as the Miami, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale. It's just been too expensive. The numbers don't work. So that's why we're more up in Jacksonville, Ocala, areas of Southwest Florida, several markets down there. Those just have a little different fundamentals for the investor side, and still great lifestyles, maybe not as nice as Palm Beach or Miami, if that's what people want, but still a great lifestyle.
Florida is Florida. Hey, of your 12 markets, is there a standout where things are really happening quickly and, just a total panic to move to that area?
I believe in all our areas, Kerry. Southwest Florida, the greater Fort Myers area, that was really hot. It was the fastest growing area in the country last year, ranked. But I think, part of me really likes Jacksonville. That was our hub market. That's where we started, and I'm just seeing some real exciting approvals come through finally in Jacksonville, where we need housing, and in good areas, we're finally getting more quads approved, which, investors love our quads. They're unicorns, I call them, because they're harder to find, especially new construction. They're hard to get approved, but they produce a great cash flow. So probably Jacksonville is the one I'm most excited about right now.
Any of your buyers actually taking one of those quad units for themselves and just letting the tenants finance their home, pay for their home?
We've had a few people owner occupy and live in a unit and then rent the other 3, which is not a bad strategy for people to start off on.
Yeah, especially you're young in your 20s, early 30s. It's your ticket to building wealth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for like a lot of years here. Like
24 years. Been the new construction game about 10 years now. I hung up my rehab shoes, about 9 years ago.
So, as far as cost, inflation, as far as finding qualified contractors and laborers, that's gotten a lot tougher, hasn't it?
A lot tougher, but we are, a team of 170. So we have a good sized team. We've also really entrenched in the markets where we're not as big as the nationals, but we've been building through the pandemic. And so we've established some pretty good trade routes with both, our subs and materials, which helps everyone involved.
Right. And luckily, the price of lumber has dipped dramatically from its peak.
It's come down quite a bit. Still not where we were in 2019, a normal market, but definitely a lot better than where it was at end of 2020.
So if you're an investor and you're looking to take your first step into this market, what is your key piece of advice to that person?
I would look for the long term. People, my best advice to people, Kerry, and I've owned hundreds of properties. If I had to go back and do something different, I would own less of better quality in better areas. Period. End of story. Because the cheapies with deferred maintenance can seem like a great strategy. And look, I've owned them, but there is more involvement. There is maintenance and more maintenance repairs, more turnover. And I've now in my more wise years, I'm hoping I've learned I own a lot less property than I used to, but they're of much better quality and they produce a way better cash flow and way more equity than when I had more to deal with. So I tell people, it's not the amount of properties you own, it's the quality of each property you do own. And that's my best advice.
So quality, not quantity. And also when you're talking quality, you get better quality tenants, right? Yeah. So better quality tenants means less maintenance, means less headaches, right?
Exactly, sir.
All right. Well, hey, tell us, where do we find you? How do we contact you? How do we follow you on the internet?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about kind of our fundamentals and principles, my wife and I designed something called the JJ Playbook. You can go to jjplaybook.com. That's going to talk about our build to rent model and kind of our journey over the last 24 years. How did we create our passive income to support our lifestyle and then some? And then Southern Impression Homes is our building company. And we're in most major markets in Florida, like we talked about. And that's a great starting point. If you're wanting to get more involved, all you have to do is go through jjplaybook.com and set up a discovery call with one of our sales specialists.
All right. Hey, really interesting times. It shows that real estate is, in fact, local, and you got hundreds of local markets, and they're not all created equal. If you got a question for Jim or myself, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. You'll find the links in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Just click through, and while you're there, sign up for your free newsletter. Jim, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
Good seeing you, Kerry. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.